really enjoyed myself, and I saw so many wonderful places, and I got to experience a whole different level of travel, and I learned a lot, and it was just a wonderful experience. Uh, it wasn't perfect, and I realized in going back through some of that footage that I didn't really tell a lot of what was going on in the background. I mentioned some things, but I didn't focus on it. And that was why, because I wasn't focused on it. I didn't let it bother me. It happened, things would break, or well, I'll get into that in a minute, the things that happened. And I told myself, no, I'm going to enjoy myself. And I did. I really did. I enjoyed it. Right at the end, it got to where it was just, I was ready to come home. There were things that happened that I just couldn't get out of my mind, and I needed to come home, and I'll talk about that here in a bit. But yeah, it was amazing. So now let's talk about some of what went wrong and some of the things that I didn't expect. Got myself a list here so I remember everything. Well, one of the big things was when I was at Rockhound State Park, this fan here stopped working. It was like in the upper 90s, and that night I was trying to get the van to cool down, because at night it really does cool down. In the desert, the nights are nice and cool usually, at least during the time that I was out there. And but the daytimes can get extremely high, and it was in the upper 90s, and this fan broke, and I was like, I thought it was going to be horrible, but it wasn't, because a lot of times I don't even turn this fan on, and I have two fans. I turn the front fan on and open this one up, and it draws the air through good enough to keep the air in here circulating. But I did come to really rely on this fan here. That fan saved me, because it kept pushing the air right on me, which is what I needed when those temperatures got very, very high. There was one point in my trip where it exceeded 100 degrees, and I was just like, I was dying. I would take the spray bottle of water and mist myself with it, and then sit right in front of the fan, and that made a huge difference. That really works in cooling you down. So keep that in mind if you're ever in that situation, air hitting, wet your hair down if you have to, even your clothes, and keep a fan on you, and it'll cool you down tremendously. But so that happened, and we have repaired it, and that repair is going to be in my next video, so you guys can see what happened. It's a common issue, and I think it'll be helpful to a lot of you guys who have max air fans and need to know what's wrong with them, and if you can fix them without having to replace the entire fan, because it'll save you some money. Another thing that happened was this pantry drawer here broke. Now, I had trouble with it coming open on me when I was driving, and it kept coming. I'd turn a curve and it would come out, and then I'd turn back straight and it would go back in. That was constant, and a couple times it came off its track, and I was able to get it back on track, put it back in, and it was all right. But the last time it came off its track, it had broken, and just the slide portion, but not enough. I couldn't get it functioning again. So I got it functioning again, but I've got to keep that from happening on this next trip coming up. And so that repair will be in the next video as well. My next video is a lot of little repairs, trying to get everything back to where it's supposed to be and prevent a lot of these things from happening again. When I plan my trips, I like to decide on a route. Sometimes the campgrounds and the places I want to visit decide on the route, but I try to focus on reducing my gas by making it like a loop. Sometimes I do end up backtracking, but that will reduce my expenses quite a bit. As many of you know, gas prices soared, and oh my gosh, they were at least double what I had expected. And so, I blew my budget. And so that ended up costing me a lot more money than I intended. I haven't even added it up, but I know that with the gas prices being double, I paid twice as much. But I did create kind of a loop for my trip, and that helps. And so keep that in mind if you're planning a trip. A loop really can save you some money. When you're backtracking a lot, that's where your gas can really soar. If you've got a lot of places you're visiting while you're at camp, you're leaving camp and you're going and exploring, that costs you more money. So I tried to make it where, I would see things along the route, I'd stop at a campsite, go to the next one, and made like a loop. And then I ended up getting back on the same highways. It was kind of a lollipop style trip this time, although I did a little bit of backtracking. But that was because I couldn't get reservations on the days that I wanted them and had to kind of be flexible there. So yeah, the gas prices were unexpected. The dryness, oh my gosh, all the wood in here started shrinking because I'm in a very humid climate in Southwest Florida, and the further west I got, the more things shrunk, and it became, and wood flexed a little bit. And at one point I was having trouble getting the pegs in the bottom of the fridge to go in because the wood had started flexing as it was shrinking on the side. But I just had to use a little more muscle power and I would get them in. And when I came back to Florida, I was seeing it going right back to where it was, and now it's fine. But I know every time I go out west now, that's going to be an issue. That was unexpected. I'm learning. I'm not used to this yet, but I'm gaining experience, and I'm hoping by making videos like this, share those experiences with you guys. But yeah, the wood, depending on the climate in which you are in when you construct it, you can expect it to either shrink or expand. And, a lot of times it's not a big issue, but in some cases it can be. Speaking of dryness, oh gosh, I didn't expect that most of the trip I would feel completely dehydrated. I mean, I could not get enough water. I don't know what it was. I was drinking a lot of water, but I also was perspiring a lot because, like I said, the temperatures were high, and I was active. I was doing a lot of hiking and stuff. So, a lot of times when I'm hiking, I can be very bad about forgetting to drink water. So I was trying to get in the habit the entire trip of protecting myself from the sun, wearing a hat, drinking lots of water, even though I would try to remind myself to drink water even when I wasn't thirsty yet, because I knew I was losing water. And then when I'd get back to camp, I would I craved fruit, and I know I craved fruit, and I craved fresh greens, and I know that's because it contains more water. I knew my body was telling me, you need water. And so, yeah, I didn't expect that. And also, when I left here, I brought the firewood, the certified firewood, you know, that's been treated so it doesn't have pests, that sort of thing. I got a couple bundles and I put it in here, and I thought, well, I'll have it. And when there's wood available at a campground, I can buy it and still have that. But when there's not, I'll be glad I do have it, and I'll use up that wood. Well, I don't think I did a fire the entire trip. There were a couple times where I could have, but it wasn't convenient at that time because it was just like a one-nighter or so, and that sort of thing. There was some reason. But for the most part, when I wanted a fire, I couldn't do it because there were fire bans. And I mean, understandably, everything was like straw. The grass was like straw. I mean, it was, you know, that was unexpected. So I didn't need to bring any of that. One of the biggest things to break on my trip was right near the end of the trip, and that was my fridge. Oh, I had just went to the store. I had put a bunch of fruits and veggies in there, and sure enough, the fridge broke. I didn't know what was wrong with it. I didn't want to burn it up. I ended up putting ice in it and treating it like a cooler. But it also was right at the end, like I said, and I had other things going on that it kind of, you know, compiled that with the other things going on. And I just made the decision, okay, I'm heading back to Florida, and I did. I only had a few days left on my trip anyway. I had one more stop in Mississippi I needed to make, and then I had a few days I was going to spend in the Florida Panhandle, and I just canceled those, and I headed back here because some of the other things that went wrong, there were things going on at home. Now, when you have a base camp and you're leaving your family behind and you're going on a trip like this, you know, you can expect there's going to be things happen back at home that you feel kind of guilty. You feel like you need to be back there. You need to help. You need to get back to help at home, deal with the stress of those situations. But yeah, I had things going on at home. One thing was, our AC broke at the house. You know, Florida, AC gets pretty important in Florida during the warmer months because you've got high humidity. If you don't keep the air circulating in your house, then you're dealing with issues like mold can build up. It gets hot, and so Kevin was dealing with that. And I felt bad, you know, I could just picture the situation, you know, with trying to cool it off using fans, and it was going to be a big expense. And so that was going on, and I didn't talk about any of that on the video because I was trying not to focus on it. I didn't want to think about it. And then, we received word from our homeowner's insurance at one point saying that they were going to drop us if we didn't replace our roof because it was a 20-plus year roof, and it was time. Well, our roof was fine, but they wanted us to replace it. And turns out that's something going on with all the insurance companies and all across Florida. So yeah, we had to come up with the money to replace the roof, and we weren't sure how we were going to afford it. So we went. That was stressful for Kevin, especially because he was the one having to field the phone calls and get the estimates and deal with all that. And so I felt bad, but the roof is now fixed, by the way. We've got it replaced. A lot of these things have been taken care of. The AC's been repaired. But yeah, all that can be stressful. And when you're trying to enjoy yourself and you know, you're not wanting to think about the problems of daily life, which life keeps going. When you're on a trip that is an extended trip like I was on, and so you're out there for weeks, and you can be sure things are going to happen back at base camp. You've got to be flexible and adaptable and deal with them. And, I was very fortunate. Kevin, gosh, I love him. He's so great to me. And he was dealing with a lot of it. The biggest thing coming from home, or however you want to look at it, was that my father passed away. And, I'm not going to go into the story of my relationship with him or my lack of or any of that right now. That's a doozy. But it hurt. And that was probably the turning point for me. I told myself, just like everything else, I wasn't going to think about it. I was going to not let anything, not even it, mess up my trip. But there was a lot going on with it. I was receiving a lot of phone calls, important phone calls, and I was not wanting to deal with what I was needing to deal with. And the reality is I needed to, and I had to. And so I decided, all right, when the fridge broke, I think that was it. I was like, this is a message. Everything's starting to fall apart right at the end of this trip. You need to go home. So I did. I canceled those last few stops and I went home. Another thing that happened right toward the end of my trip at Caprock Canyon State Park is I had my electric cord and surge protector stolen from camp. Oh, it made me so angry that somebody would have the audacity, the arrogance, and the lack of morality to do something like that. And they did. I wasn't at camp, and maybe I'm not going to make excuses for them. The fact is, it didn't belong to them, and they took it. And I have replaced it. Got my surge protector and my cord. I doubt the person that took it is watching this, but I hope they are, because you know what? I'm back on track. Now, the surge protector I got, it's not as nice as the one I had. The one I had like a ring here that would lock, and this one doesn't. But at least if it gets stolen, maybe it didn't cost quite as much, so maybe it won't hurt quite as much. But I'm not going to make the same mistake. I won't be leaving it out when I leave the campsite ever again. Sometimes you feel like you have to leave something out. That day I thought it would be really windy, and I wanted to leave. I didn't want to leave like a lawn chair, anything like that could blow around. So I thought, I'll just coil that up and leave it, and it should be fine. It seems safe. It wasn't. It's amazing. People scope things out and they just hone in on it and think it's theirs. But anyway, I'm not gonna think about that. I'm gonna keep moving on this. But with everything that went wrong, I have to say it was outweighed by all the many, many awesome experiences that I had. I got to see family that some of them I had never met. Some of them I had met and didn't remember, and some I hadn't seen in years. I was able to see the desert. I love desert plants. I always have. I love the architectural shape of them. I love that they have their defenses up, all their spines, and yet they maintain their beauty, and they're so adaptable. And I love just the strength that they represent for me. And so I love being able to hike those areas and be amongst that type of flora. And I was surprised at the animal life. There was some, I'm nearsighted. So, when I'm in the forest and stuff, I don't see a lot of like your birds and stuff that well. I'll know they're there, I'll hear them. But I'll have trouble actually seeing them up in the trees, and because it's a distance. And in the desert, they're right there. And I just loved seeing all the birds up close. They come down and they'll land on shrubs and they'll be right in front of you, and it's almost like they're not even afraid of you. And it just, I enjoyed that. I was worried about snakes the whole time, and I did at one point when I was at Rockhound State Park see a rattlesnake, but that was the only rattlesnake I saw the entire trip. And so I consider myself fortunate about that. Who knows if they were there and I just didn't see them. I almost didn't see that one. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a wonderful experience. I got to see Cadillac Ranch for the first time. That was always a goal of mine, to get out on a road trip and stop by there sometime. I got to meet up with a YouTube viewer. We went on a little hike, and it was wonderful. I think we'll be friends for a long time because of that meetup. And it's nice hiking with other people. I really enjoyed that. I should do a video talking about some of my favorite places that I've been so far since I started traveling in the van. I may do that. Because there's just so many. It's like right now there's so many images going through my head that I don't even know which one I would call my favorite. It's just, I love traveling. I really love seeing new things, having new experiences. I love that I'm growing, you know. This was hard for me. This was, I didn't drive for a lot of years, and I'm facing those fears. And I'm always had the dream of doing travel like this, but didn't think it would ever be a reality because of my driving anxiety. And I'm getting better. I'm getting better with that, and I'm you know, I've still got a ways to go, but I'm gonna keep facing my fears, and because I'm learning that when I do, I don't regret it. I don't. Yeah. I've got quite a bit more planned for the future. In this van, with Kevin in the RV, and gosh, maybe even, you know, on foot. But yeah, I got a lot planned in the future. But I know how plans go. I got a whole list of things that didn't go as planned, but you know, I like to plan. So I'll plan a trip, but I always expect that there's going to be the unexpected. And I guess that's kind of the point of this video. Every time something negative happened, I reminded myself, and I'm just how grateful and fortunate I am to be doing what I'm doing. And that, you know, if I just don't let those negative things run it, they won't. And you know, they didn't. And they're little things, really. I mean, gosh, I could do this in, you know, a car. I could do this by bicycle if I had the physical ability. No, I don't have the physical ability, but that would be a whole lot tougher. So I know how fortunate I am, and I have those little breaks here and there. It's frustrating. It's financially difficult to fix them sometimes, but somehow it always works out. There will always be challenges in life, and it's just about having a positive attitude. And the more I learn that, and the more I practice it, the easier it gets to face things, to adapt, to adjust, and move on. Don't let things run your happiness, and you know, don't let other people run your happiness. You know, just focus on what works for you and go after your dreams. So now let's talk about what's next. I'm sure on this next trip there will be challenges, and I will face them. So what is next? Well, before I go on my next trip, I will be showing you guys some of the repairs. Then Kevin and I have a short trip planned in the RV, and we'll take you guys along for that. And I'll probably bring you guys into my studio and talk about the art and how that's been going since I started van life. Also, I will possibly take a couple short overnight trips solo in the van. Then I'm headed north. I am going back up to the Appalachian Mountain areas in my next big trip because there's some things up there I didn't get to see last time that I've been thinking about, and I'm gonna be there hopefully for the fall colors, and that'll be really nice. So I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, please. And I will see you next time. Bye.